Welcome back. Leadership, or lack thereof, has been blamed for the disarray in South Africa on many fronts, from the economic crisis and skyrocketing unemployment to generally poor leadership.
Well, I sat down with former President Kgalema Motlanthe to discuss the type of future that the country is likely to have as a result of this. Have a look. So what does the future of leadership look like in the South African context? What kind of leaders do we as a citizenship actually expect? Do we vote for those leaders? Are we satisfied with those that we currently have? And more importantly, what then do we say about accountability where governance and leadership is concerned? Well, joining us now to unpack some of these issues is the former President of the Republic of South Africa, President Kgalema Motlanthe. Mr. President, thank you so much for your time this afternoon, and thanks for joining us. You know, right now the country is facing an unemployment rate of over 60% where young people are concerned. Never mind the NEETs, of course, they're not employed, not educated, and not trained, right, which becomes a bigger problem in itself. Is South Africa sitting on a time bomb that it can no longer shut down? And are we closer to a revolt of the youth than what we had anticipated before?
Well, you know, young people need opportunities. And the communities, I mean, you know, in various places, every day there's a demonstration somewhere. What saves us is that these are still not yet properly coordinated. Otherwise, we would by now have experienced a conflagration, really. But certainly, every day there is a demonstration taking place somewhere in this country, almost every day. So, young people who are not in any institute of learning or in any job are, in fact, a reserve army waiting to be ignited or mobilized into some form of action. Now, the way to diffuse that kind of tinderbox is to create and deploy micro financing facilities in the midst of communities, so that a youngster who has no possibilities of finding a job anyway, however, feels that perhaps, you know, they could start something, and they need startup capital, which really in the majority of cases doesn't amount to much. Yeah. They can then access that. So it's the reason you got to do it in the midst of communities. I mean, these micro lending facilities is to make it easy for them to access it, so that they don't go through, you know, having to prepare a business plan and stuff like that. And in the townships, I mean, there are plumbers who design, you know, trellis doors and gates, and you find that this person has to use public transport, a taxi, to go and buy material, come back with the help of someone else, make this gate. And when it is complete, they park it outside the yard there for the public to see. And they depend on passers-by who will say, oh, I like that gate, or mention it to somebody else and so on. Now, somebody like that would need a small startup, perhaps to buy a bakkie, so that they can go and get the material themselves and have an order book, actually, you know, using modern devices and apps.
It almost speaks to the intentionality behind us having to foster business dynamics and business growth, especially for young people in this country. But I also want us to perhaps challenge the notion that we find ourselves in this crisis point simply because there's a leadership deficit in this country, that we have to start conceding. And I wonder, when did we fail in being able to lead? when did we actually fail in being able to lead in this country?
Well, we failed right at the beginning in the sense that, people form organizations for a purpose. So, for instance, the National Native Congress was formed in 1912 for a purpose, because Africans were excluded from parliament and the main body politic of the country. And that was its mission throughout. And throughout, many of the South Africans, placed their faith and everything in the ANC. And the ANC itself, throughout the years, said it is waging a struggle in the name of and on behalf of the people. But then come 1994, when that is achieved, that strategic goal is achieved, as the ANC, myself included, what we failed to do was to pause and say, wait a minute, where are these people in whose name and on whose behalf we wage the struggle? What is their role now in taking this struggle to another level? Instead, we concerned ourselves with preservation and carried on as though, in fact, we were meant to and structured to lead even in issues of governance. And just that omission meant that we were going to go in one direction.
So does the ANC even have leadership any longer, in your opinion? I mean, you're an individual that has gone through what the ethos of the African National Congress was supposed to be. If we're looking at the future of the ANC right now, especially with slate politics that are at play, does the ANC have leaders any longer, in your opinion?
Well, the internal democratic practices of the ANC have been corrupted, through slate politics, vote buying, manipulation, and so on. And then, of course, the outcomes create doubt, in the sense that, let's assume I have a network that mobilizes for me to be elected, and we are part of a slate. So there's alignment and so on. And then we succeed, and then I'm elected. So from day one, from the moment I am elected in the position of leadership, I am basically in doubt, paralyzed by doubt, in the sense that I am not sure whether I'm serving at the behest of the general membership or it is thanks to my network. You see what I mean? So just that sense of doubt paralyzes a leader. You can't lead, because to be a leader means that you stand a few steps ahead of the general membership.
Yeah.
And so you express their views, you tap into their wisdom, and so on. But when they go wrong, you are able to look them in the eye and say, no, that can't work. It is wrong for the following reasons.
So if it was a multiple choice question and it was, does the ANC have leadership any longer? Yeah. That answer would be no.
Yeah. Because you see, if we have a leadership that is paralyzed by doubt, when you expect them to be decisive, they will not be decisive.
So then should the public actually ever trust the African National Congress any longer, President?
Well, that's a question that is difficult to answer, in the sense that there's a, you see, as a voter, an ordinary voter, or even those who don't vote, but who are South Africans. So they scan the landscape, the whole spectrum of political parties, and have to decide that this is the one that represents, our interest. And I think they have difficulties in that regard, which drives some of them to say, better the devil we know the one we don't know, you see. So that is why the ANC remains the single largest minority in all the political parties.
What kind
Even where they are out of government because of coalitions, they would still be the single largest minority.
Then what kind of leadership does South Africa actually need? Because if you're saying that the ANC has failed, that means that we don't need the ANC. But we do need leadership. What kind of leadership does this country of ours actually need?
Well, the country is at a point where I think it could do with fresh blood, fresh thinking, new thinking, and therefore the run-of-the-mill, political animals should really, create the space for, as I said, injection of young blood and new thinking and ideas. If we don't do that, and we carry on this trajectory we're following, the situation will get worse. You see, the situation will get worse. You need a bit of energy and new thinking to come to the fore. And of course, this calls into question our electoral system, because, as you know, the electoral system is one of proportional representation at provincial and national level, even though the Concord ruling creates space for independents to also participate. The lawmakers have not worked out how that's going to function, which means that the reality is not going to be with us in these coming elections. Basically, these coming elections will still be determined, the outcomes will still be determined by basically political parties contesting elections and not individuals.
As a member of the ANC, do you actually see the African National Congress winning 2024? Or do you think that actually what we're going to face here is coalition, simply because of its track record?
Yeah, well, there's a possibility that the ANC may still come out with 50+1%. That possibility exists, depending on what the ANC does between now and 2024. It is committed to renew itself as a consequence of a conference resolution. However, the manipulation has not stopped, which was because, if you renew yourself, the starting point, the first point is to admit that you've done wrong, and all along you've been either harping on wrong notes or just doing wrong things. So that you move away from that and you change. But what we observe is that we all, harp on the note of renewal, but the manipulation has not stopped.
It has been a pleasure, and I do thank you for your honest sentiments regarding the future of this country. And perhaps we'll take heed in terms of the country that we want to have as South African citizenship, and are we willing to hold those that are current government to account about the future of this country, because clearly it's business unusual in this country.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.